that pretty much invalidate those claims, the one you've heard for more than a year, of collusion with the Russians? It appears that way. So if this investigation is no longer about Russian collusion, what exactly is it about? Andrew McCarthy is a former federal prosecutor and a contributing editor to National Review. He's thought a lot about that question, written about it, and he joins us tonight. Andy McCarthy, thanks for coming on.
Tucker, thanks for having me.
So the details are emerging from all kinds of directions all the time in this story. And so it's easy to lose track of the core point of this. And my understanding was this investigation was designed to determine what influence the Russians had on the 2016 election. Is that no longer the point?
Well, I think ostensibly it's still the point. If you ask them, they would tell you that they were conducting still a counterintelligence investigation of Russia's meddling in the election with a sideline into whether there was Trump campaign collusion in it. My own view, for what it's worth, is that that's the guise under which the investigation has gone forward. Really what a lot of people on the Democratic side wanted to do was assign a prosecutor to the Trump administration. This was a pretty good reason to do it. But where I think they're headed is an obstruction of justice investigation, and collusion's pretty much gone by the boards, at least as something that's potentially actionable in the way it charges.
So the charges would stem from behavior conducted during the investigation itself?
Correct. A process crime, just like the two pleas to the two guys who pled to lying to the FBI agents.
Right.
That's a way of obstructing the investigation. I think the ultimate target is Trump, and their theory is that he knew that there was this investigation into his campaign that potentially would be compromising with Russia. I should say here that this isn't my theory. This is what I think their theory is.
Yes.
That Flynn had this contact with the Russian ambassador, that Trump leaned on Comey to go easy on Flynn or to drop the investigation on Flynn because Trump was worried that it would bounce back at him, and that when Comey didn't do that, ultimately Trump fired Comey as part of the obstruction. I think it's got a lot of holes in it, but I think that's where they're going.
So I guess what bothers me about it, and I'm obviously not in favor of lying to anyone ever, but it doesn't sound like in the end we're going to see the kind of core crimes exposed. It doesn't seem like this has anything to do with what we're told it was about. And it also seems like, to some extent, if you threw an investigation like this at anybody, you might be able to, and I'm not defending the behavior, the dumb behavior of some of the Trump people, really dumb behavior. On the other hand, this could be done to anybody, actually, if you wanted to do it to somebody. Am I overstating?
No, you're right. This is why I was so upset at the beginning, Tucker, that they carried this as a counterintelligence investigation, because counterintelligence is just an information gathering exercise. The regs, when you appoint a special counsel, say you're supposed to describe the offenses that require a criminal investigation and that the Justice Department is, for some reason, recused from. And the importance of that is that a criminal investigation has a beginning and an end. It's got concrete elements that you know you have to prove the transaction that's being investigated, whereas counterintelligence can go on forever. And in some sense, because it's about threats to the United States, it probably should go on forever.
Right, that's right.
So if you're going to attach a prosecutor to someone and you're not even giving them notice of what it is that's being investigated, it really becomes almost like a general warrant under the Fourth Amendment that is the reason we have the Fourth Amendment.
So, I mean, if we come away from this, whatever happens, with half the country believing this was, in effect, a coup staged by the permanent class, the ruling class, against a president they didn't pick, if people really believe that, that's a disaster. And shouldn't the Justice Department be doing everything it can to make sure that people don't think that they think this is legitimate?
Well, I think we have to let it play out, Tucker, before we make a judgment about what people will think about it. Because for all the heavy breathing that's gone on now, there's been 3 sets of charges. One indictment that doesn't have anything to do with the 2016 election or President Trump. Right. And 2 process crimes that also don't have anything really to do with the election or Trump. So there's a lot of noise, but if that's all it is at the end, I don't know what people will make of it, except that it was probably a waste of time, and it was very bad for the country because it's hard for an administration to govern when everybody has to look at everybody else like a potential suspect.
That's right. And that's the problem. Administrations come and go. You just don't want it to hurt the country. That's the danger.
You want good people to be willing to serve. You don't want them to think a week into the job they have to lawyer up.